Well, kia ora koutou te whānau. It's wonderful to be here, isn't it? Couldn't get there last year, and I think we are blessed as a nation to be able to do this, that most of the world can't do that. And I'm also blessed today to introduce my neighbour from Wellington, and one of my principal colleagues, Jeanette Duffy from St Orans, where Jeanette's been for the last 4.5 years. And as I reflected the introduction and I thought about being principal for the last 4.5 years, I thought, well, the last 2 of those have been driven by a pandemic, and I started reflecting around the importance of community and well-being as we've been part of that. And I know that some of the work that Jeanette's been doing was looking at a special character review and what that looks like and how that supported well-being through those times as well. But we know that the most important thing is people, and we know that over that time it's been really important that we've looked after our communities and our people. And I know from our neighbour and living in close proximity in Wellington, what a wonderful job Jeanette and her team have done at St Orans. It's a magnificent school, and that community has really thrived. And I think that's also symbolic potentially of what all of us have done through this period of time and challenge. And I just really commend to you the work that the chaplains have done, the work that our boards have done, and the work that our principals have done. And I'm delighted to hear from an outstanding colleague who has done an exemplary job at his school during that time. So Jeanette, I'd invite everyone to welcome you to the stage.
I feel it's like that, talk it up and hopefully someone can deliver. That's always scary. Thank you, Brian, for those kind words this morning. Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Jeanette Duffy ingoa, ko Ate Tumuaki, ko Te Kura o Hata o Rana. And yes, I've had the pleasure of being principal at St Orans for the last 4 years, just finished 4 years at the end of term 2, and looking forward to a few more. But it has been a challenging couple of years, certainly to step into principalship and nod to Helen as well, who kind of joined me at a similar time frame. So it's been interesting times, that's for sure. I've entitled the presentation today, Sometimes the Truth is Hard to Hear, and sometimes that word review is also slightly hard to hear, particularly when you get that email from Eero, where it's a slightly different model now, and you sort of go into panic mode and think, oh, they're coming to check up on us. Last year we committed to carrying out a special character review, and we were delighted to have Reverend Stephanie Wells and Reverend Hamish Galloway come as a team to carry out that special character review. I guess we were in 2 minds. Last year was challenging enough, perhaps without subjecting ourselves to a special character review. We had hoped to do it in 2019, but had missed the boat on that. Joss had had a particularly challenging term 1 with a relationship with our student head of special character. But again, I commend Joss for saying, no, let's just get on with it. Yes, it's been a tough year, but let's actually open our doors and let's do this review and let's see what we can learn. But as we know, in doing that, sometimes we also have to be open to some hard truths that may challenge us and may force us to think a little bit about what we're doing and why we're doing it as well. It would have been very easy to have deferred it, but we pushed on and welcomed Stephanie and Hamish into our school for 3 very full days. Absolutely. Right, now. Perfect. I hope we've got the right one. I've messed around with the IT people. I've been one of those nightmare presenters. Thank you so much. As many of us know, whether you engage in an external review or an internal review, the key things are about how well are we doing things at the moment, how well are we living out being a Presbyterian character school, and where is that evident within our school on a day-to-day basis. We really wanted to hear from all of our stakeholders what we were doing well and what things we needed to do better. And so we really took time to think about who were the key people we wanted Hamish and Stephanie to speak with and survey during their time with us as well. And we really wanted this to be quite future focused. So So here we were in the position, we were quite comfortable with some of the things that we had been doing, some of the ways that we had been working, but actually what else could we be doing in the future in the special character space? My background is in Catholic schools. I've spent probably 30 of my years teaching and leading in Catholic schools, where a lot of the special character is ordained, and you just do what you're told pretty much. And coming into a Presbyterian school, where perhaps there is not quite that close church school directive, I suppose, it's very easy perhaps to sit there and maybe not do too much as well, or give too much credence to special character. But for me it was important for us to define that and really think about how we're living that out on a daily basis. And then it was about the roles and responsibilities within the leadership of the school as well. I really believe that it's not my job as a principal, and nor is it Jocelyn's job as the chaplain, to carry the special character sole-handedly. It is about how each and every one of our staff members and our students and our wider whānau live out that special character as well in their engagement within the school. So we welcomed Hamish and Stephanie in. We said, what are we doing well? What things do you notice that are not perhaps hitting the mark? Is all our community committed to and feel that they have a responsibility for our special character, not just to uphold it, but to nurture it and grow it for the future? And what areas might we look at for enhancement, and how might we achieve this? And we were very comprehensive in our review, as you can see by the long list of people who were spoken with, interviewed, time spent with over 3 very full, very busy days. It was really important that we heard from our students, and we created a lot of focus groups across year levels. Our students were members of our Special Character Council and also in our student-led worship group. Whānau were invited in as well, and there's various different spectrums that they bring to the table. Certainly our Christian Studies teachers, but certainly our pastoral team we see as being very integral to upholding and nurturing the special character of our school. So they were also spoken with. Our board of proprietors were very much engaged and involved in the process of the review. Myself and the rest of our senior leadership team and Jocelyn. And then they had the opportunity to go into a number of our Christian Studies classes right from year 7 to 13 and to meet and talk with those girls within those classes as well. They had the opportunity to observe a chaplain's assembly, but I think we were at a alert level, can't remember what alert level we were at, lost track of it, didn't we, throughout the year. So it was slightly modified, but did have the opportunity to come along to a very small chaplain's assembly and also to attend the various council meetings as well. So we cast the net really widely, and we wanted to hear, and we opened ourselves up, I guess, to the truths that may have been a little bit unpalatable, that sometimes we don't always want to hear from our stakeholders. Out of the review, there were a series of commendations and also recommendations, which we've really valued. And when Hamish was leaving on the last day, he said, I think we've just left you with a whole lot of work to do, Jeanette. And I said, that's great, because actually it's given us, endorsed a lot of my thinking around where we maybe could be going and should be going, but also it's provided us with a really clear pathway, some things that we can attend to. And some of these things were quite foundational in terms of where we went as well. The things that they said, we were doing well, they really acknowledged the fact that Centralans was prioritising special character and that we committed a whole lot of time in terms of whole staff professional learning to that. So again, that sense that we are in this journey together, we all have a responsibility. You may be a maths teacher, but actually you have a responsibility as well to nurture the special character in our school. We were commended for our leadership focusing on a real and authentic approach to the enhancement of special character and the systems and structures that we had in place at that time to support it, but also our ongoing commitment to review and refresh and to reconnect with our special character. There were, I think, about 8 recommendations, which could have been a bit overwhelming, but as we've broken them down, worked away at them, they've really provided that navigational tool for us. A key one that I would like to share with you was around developing a philosophy of pedagogy for the teaching of Christian studies. And this has become a real foundational point for us in terms of appointing staff teaching in the Christian studies space, but also what we want the look and feel of our Christian studies lessons to look like. So this was the philosophy that we developed. I'll just give you a few seconds to have a read. And this philosophy of pedagogy, which was developed within our special character subcommittee of our board of proprietors and then contributed to by our senior leaders as well, has created a real foundation stone for us in terms of curriculum development as a professional development tool when we are employing new staff who will be teaching not just in the Christian studies space but across the school as well. Really important for us that people coming into Central Rooms understand that this is the pedagogical approach that we are taking to Christian studies. A very loud voice, particularly from our students and from some of our staff, when we carried out the review, was they felt our Christian studies programs were too dogmatic. They were too narrow. They were exclusive rather than inclusive. And that might have been quite hard for some of us to hear, but we needed to hear it. And we needed a new signpost and direction. And this philosophy of pedagogy has really provided that for us. And the development work that we've been doing in our senior Christian studies space, in that totally new program, all the time we're coming back and saying how we're delivering on what we have set ourselves out to do and achieve. And is this program actually providing for that? I'm teaching senior Christian studies myself this year, and I was interested at the end of term 1 at a little bit of student voice. And one of my students, I said, how's it going? And what feedback would you like to give around senior Christian studies this year? This is my year 13. And she said, I'm enjoying it a lot more, but you still haven't changed my mind. And I said, I'm not actually here to change your mind, but I'm glad that you're thinking about it. And that was really what we wanted to hear, that actually through invitation, our students felt they were in a position to think and question and challenge and come to an understanding of where they are in their faith and on their faith journey, rather than being told what we would like them to think or believe as well. So I think we're on the right path at the moment. That has been a key thing for us. The other things that, again, if we're going to carry out a review, we want to put the power of that word into action. There's no point in putting that document in your top drawer and then 5 years later thinking, well, we better check back on that and see how we're going. That philosophy of pedagogy has been key. And what term did we do the review, Stephanie? Was it term 3? Wasn't it? Yes, term 3, that's right. And I said to the Board of Proprietors, I really would like this philosophy of pedagogy in place by the end of 2020, so that we had that to frame our work for this year, which we worked really hard to achieve. What we've also continued to do is review our Year 7 and 8 Christian Studies program. We have made some changes there in that curriculum space a couple of years ago. We're calling our program Connect. And it's a combination of Christian Studies, faith in action and service, and health. And so our Year 7 and 8s have the equivalent of 3 spells a week in Christian Studies, in Connect. There's a lovely synergy that works between these curriculum areas. We have a new staff member who joined us this year, who is leading the work and the development in that place, and it continues to be reviewed and enhanced. The Senior Christian Studies program has been fully reviewed and rewritten and developed. I think we did a bit more work on that yesterday, Jocelyn, before we jumped on the plane as well to upload for our classes today on Google Classroom. And as I've said, the anecdotal evidence is that our students are a lot more engaged and beginning to see that Senior Christian Studies, there's an invitational space here. We are, however, having to work through students' previous experience of Christian Studies at senior school. And that is a challenge for us, I think, as we begin to change culture and shift a feeling around the space. That will take a little while. And we're very mindful of that as we work in that Christian Studies space. We've had some staffing changes as a consequence of this review. One staff member decided to resign at the end of the year. They felt that in fact they were unable to embrace that philosophy of pedagogy. And we had long conversations about that. But for her, she was not comfortable in that space and chose to resign. That's quite a dramatic outcome from a review, a brave and courageous approach on her behalf, but one which allows us to honour the pedagogy that we have established for our school moving forward. As I said myself, I've been teaching in that senior Christian studies, that space. I believe you walk the talk when you're actually moving and doing curriculum development and design. And so being in that space and seeing how those classes are going is really important. Our DP curriculum also teaches in that senior Christian space this year, as well as Joss, our chaplain. And we also were invited by the review team to revisit our policy and operating guidelines for our Queer Straight Alliance in our school. Again, this has created quite a lot of consternation early in the year amongst the students, and we really wanted to send a much more inclusive message through that policy and operating guidelines. And it was a very strong recommendation coming through from the review, which we've also attended to and made that change for this year. Some things that we are still to do, still to consider how worship is presented at St Laurence. We unfortunately don't have a wonderful building like this. We have a school hall which allows us to get all 500 girls into that school, and we have our lovely proscenium arch stage. That's our chapel, although we have a little mini chapel where we can get about 20 girls in there. So we don't have that space, but it is, even without the space, it's thinking about what do we want worship to look like at St Laurence, and that's some work for us still to be doing. And we're looking to grow a wider pool of teachers who are able to teach and willing to teach in the Christian studies classes. And I think again that's helping to send a more inclusive message around faith in our schools. It isn't just the chaplain who teaches in the Christian studies space. It might be the principal, it might be the deputy principal, it might be a biology teacher, actually. So how can we broaden that net so that it is seen as a more inclusive space by broadening our staff? And the blue sky thinking, of course, would be to have a wonderful space such as this, to be able to come together and worship together. Currently, our staff professional learning is heavily focused on bicultural confidence and competence, and we're ensuring again that we provide really clear alignment between our provision at St Laurence in that bicultural space and our special character. And our professional learning on Monday afternoon was very much around that, revisiting a number of Te Ao Māori concepts actually that were shared with us this morning, and where does that align with our Presbyterian principles and values so that our staff and our students see that alignment. There's a lot of synergy between the two, which is really advantageous and can be harnessed particularly well going forward as we do that work in that bicultural area. The word review obviously can carry negative connotations, something being done to you as a school, that your reviewers are looking for things that you aren't compliant with or are looking to catch you out. We carry out quite a lot of internal faculty review, and last term we reviewed our visual arts faculty, and when we were feeding back to them, they said to us, you shouldn't call it a review. It makes everybody really nervous and they're feeling really anxious about it. And I said, well, what would you suggest we rebrand it? And they said, we think we should call it a faculty focus. And the value they saw at the end of the review was actually it provided a focus for us as the reviewers going into their classrooms and speaking with them and their faculty. But they saw the positive process and said actually it gives them as a faculty a clear focus and direction as a team. And they particularly valued that as a faculty. So maybe we should be thinking about special character focus going forward. I think if you enter into that review as equal partners, which I think certainly we tried to do with Stephanie and with Hamish, Joss and I met with them at the beginning of the process and said this is what we would like to get out of it, this is what's going on for us as a school, and this is what we'd really appreciate your feedback on. Then it can absolutely work to enhance and nurture our special character in our schools and certainly help to provide useful outcomes in terms of us on our special character journey. There's a lot of power in the word around the review process, and if we're brave enough as schools and brave enough as leaders and chaplains and proprietors, then I think we can hear that truth and look to act on it. That's what I think. questions. And if you have any patai or questions, I was quite happy to.
The philosophy, when it was written specifically with focus on the Christian studies and chaplain special character things, or was it written like consulting on like the whole college?
In the first instance, very much around the Christian studies space, absolutely, and the staff who may be teaching that space. But I actually see it as much more generic than that. Yeah, that actually, if you are entering into teaching and working in a special character school, then this is what we ask you to embrace.
So you've got to define special character for the staff.
Yeah. And we ask that when we're employing staff, and we ask that question, are you willing to embrace the special character of the school? And every candidate normally says yes. But what is it? You're not going to say no. But what is it that we're actually asking them to embrace? And certainly when we interviewed for our new Christian Studies teacher for the start of this year, I provided the candidates with that pedagogy and actually provided them a copy of the review and said, this is where we've come from, this is where we're going, are you on that journey?
Unless the Lord builds the house, the build...
If this is not for you, then probably the job isn't for you either.
Would you think that broadening that to staff you're employing in other areas?
Absolutely.
Can I just ask another question?
Yes.
Special character from a Presbyterian perspective, because I think actually we talk about special character and every school got its own special character.
Yes.
How have you inculcated that if indeed there is such
Yes.
such a broad church?
That's right.
Unless the Lord builds the house,
Has that been reflected in where you move?
Yes, that's right. I probably should have included that in the presentation. So the work that I did when I arrived at St Lawrence 4 years ago, because it was that sense of, well, what is this, you know? And when I spoke with staff, once I interviewed each staff when I arrived, I said, so what do you understand by special character? What do you actually, and of course I spoke to 40 odd staff. And the key thing that was coming through was we're a big family. We support one another, we help one another out, and things are tough. And I thought, well, that's great. I'm not quite sure that's the essence of our special character. And so we did a lot of professional learning at that point with Sharon. Actually, Sharon came in and worked with us quite a bit. And we developed what we consider to be our 3 Presbyterian values in our community: education, as in holistic education, and what I've got, community, I've got to go the right way, and equality. That's actually got to go through. And we've actually developed graphics around that, images around that. And so our students now, when we talk about what are the Presbyterian values that we are important to us here at St Lawrence, there's an understanding around that. And obviously language around it sits under that as well. But based on, absolutely, on the Bible, okay, in terms of Christian faith as the foundation stone. Yeah. Yes.
I'm interested in your philosophy statement, the word or the phrase Christian worldview.
Yes.
And so historically many of our schools were established to counter the secularization of New Zealand curriculum in state schools.
Yes.
And there would have been a binary understanding of Christian worldview. And now I think Christian worldview is quite kaleidoscopic in terms of what different Christians might believe in terms of how they see the world.
Correct.
And so can you tell, have you done a little work around that or experiences around that?
Yes, we have. And I think as we've moved into, for example, establishing our Peer Straight Alliance, this year we acknowledge Pride Week at St Lawrence this year. Needless to say, you do get a number of emails and letters and phone calls saying, hang on, you're a Christian school, where are you standing on this place? Absolutely. I think if we come back to that pedagogy, if we talk about, in fact, we are an inclusive school, and this is where we stand, and God, is a God of forgiveness. And I like the last line of our pedagogical statement. Our objective is for all members of the St Lawrence community to experience God's love, grace, compassion, and forgiveness. That is key for us. Yes, we will have different viewpoints about where we stand on these matters, according to where we position ourselves as a Christian. This is what we stand for, and this is what we will deliver on. Yeah. But it hasn't always been an easy path, nor does it continue to be. Thank you.
behalf of all of us here, Jeanette, we'd like to thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. We realise it was a long journey, and I remember talking to you about it at the start, and it's wonderful to hear that it's been such a success. I think we'll all agree that special character is right at the heart of our colleges, and it brings the traditions from the past with the hope for the future. And I can see the three words that stood out for me were think, question and understand, and you're encouraging your girls to take that view, and hopefully they will continue to do that for their future. So thank you very much.